Hi, good afternoon. This is Meredith Lego, and I'm doing a series of channeled teachings overall on the concept of Ascension science. And many of my teachings have come from an Ascended Master named Ascended Master Hilarion, who I've been able to basically connect to through quantum entanglement. And through that, I'm able to download lessons and learnings from him while I'm meditating or shortly after I meditate through basically a Q&A type format where I come in kind of prepared with some questions and get a response in return. The last few series of videos has focused on the concept of planning your life lessons prior to coming into an incarnation, and then how as you go into life there's a constant battle between your ego and personality and what the higher self wants to do, and how important free will and the ability to enable or enact free will in an entire environment of various polarized energies, of extreme options, basically, in energies, helps you have experiences in life and learn and grow as a soul through that process. I wanted to touch upon a video that was channeled relatively recently, and it was not actually channeled at the time I was learning about the concept of life planning, but I thought that it matched the theme of free will. Secondly, as before I get into the video, Hilarion tends to focus on very broad, high-level topics. So for example, when I try and ask a question about events going on in the world, he very much tries to pull me up to a higher level to not get sucked into the drama of the day-to-day in my own life, let alone in the world, but uses it as an opportunity to teach about the higher level lessons that he's teaching for me to take a step back, think about it as an observer, and relate what I'm experiencing or what I'm seeing in the world in terms of the lessons that he's teaching. So this particular teaching that I'm going to be sharing with you today links together that concept, although interestingly enough, he did actually get into using an example of a current event in our world today in order to make the point obvious. And the entire lesson was about the concept of free will versus another ethical principle. And I didn't go in asking about the current event. I actually went in asking about that whole topic. Now he went into this current event as a way to help me understand it a little bit more. But the topic that he's going to get into is the large global event that we went through for the last couple years that involved many people getting sick and having to go to the hospital, and then having to make choices about essentially putting liquids into their bodies in order to feel protected or cured. I'm not going to actually use the terminology that we might use normally to describe this particular event in our society and the medical treatments that are involved, because I know that YouTube, this platform, basically flags videos like that. So I'm going to use words that are somewhat similar to it, and hopefully you can catch the meaning. So the question that I asked Hilarion is, how does a soul or human navigate actioning a personal desire / contract / goal versus a group purpose or contract? So in essence, I know that if you look at the last few videos that I've done, oftentimes when we're planning a life or a lesson, we come in as a soul and essentially are looking to achieve a certain lesson and set up contracts, whether they're souls or individuals, to help us go through that experience, whether positive or negative. It's all meant to help you as an individual or an individual manifestation of source grow. But at the same time, we are part of a collective of individual manifestations who have come into incarnation at the same time. And oftentimes an entire group can be going through a contract to grow at the same time. So for example, souls that might have gone through, let's say, World War II together, had a certain experience and will probably have to repeat lessons as a group if they haven't necessarily worked off or learned enough and released enough energy from that past lesson. Another experience might be, let's say, slavery overall across the world, not limited to the United States. So that would be an example. To continue on, another way of asking that question, I said, in other words, how does one navigate a free will choice versus the societal momentum of a direction counter to your personal free will choice? This means possibly letting go of a desire and giving into the flow of energy. So that was the basic question. So the answer that he provides is a life plan is carefully planned for learnings, experiences, and all major energetic exchanges from past lives to be resolved. And when he said past, I saw it in quotes as I was channeling it, because in reality, there's not necessarily time as we know it. Although, we might think about it as past, it could actually be a parallel experience from our soul's perspective or a future experience from our linear time perspective. But in reality, all these experiences that we're having on other soul dimensions are actually playing out at the same time. He says this occurs at an individual manifestation and a group consciousness level. For the latter, an example would be souls who lived in Atlantis or Lemuria during their downfalls to reincarnate again as a soul group and experience a similar situation or test in order to work off unresolved karma. So I tried to provide an example up front of, let's say, World War II. So if you have a situation where an entire group perhaps didn't learn a lesson, maybe to stand up in their power or whatever the case may be, they will have to go back and experience that again. And it's something that the individual has to experience, but if many were sort of locked into an entrainment of not learning that lesson, it's likely that they'll go back around. According to a couple videos back, I talked about the polarity cycle that gets kind of set up through the white and the black hole, and how time loops essentially happen. So what happens is when you've created a karmic energy that goes out, you're going to push that out and you'll circle back. And I'll provide a link to that video in the description, because that could, in essence, dictate the amount of time that happens in between soul incarnations for the looping of that energy to come back around for another experience. He goes on to say, when a soul's contract or lesson plan counters a group plan, it is likely for the best and highest good for all. First, it's critical to remember that despite a plan being defined up front, a soul does not remember the plan upon incarnation and has the free will choice to action any number of paths. So again, we don't remember what our plan is oftentimes going in mentally or consciously, which speaks to the criticality of really listening to your feelings and your gut instincts, because that's where much of your communication with your higher self is going on. For situations that match the question, there could be a situation in which a soul is helping the collective learn a lesson, work off negative karma, or build positive karma by pursuing a path in resistance to the societal energy direction. In this case, both needs are met. So for example, if a soul essentially has the desire to do something that's in opposition of, let's say, the societal choice, that actually could be fulfilling the contract for the individual and helping out possibly, or hurting the benefit of the society. And it kind of can build, as he states here, negative karma or positive karma. For example, in your recent linear time experience, many Earth governments were pushing and in fact mandating filtering cloth to cover the mouth and liquid starting with the letter V that was injected into the body through a needle for a recent bug and its variants. There was an enormous push for many souls to give into the flow of energy, and yet many did not. there were many reasons, including religious, health, and even standing up for free will choice. In following their hearts, they could be following contracts to equally teach a lesson for the preservation of free will choices. So you see, there is no right or wrong polar choice for either the individual soul or a collective group. As I have taught, there is only experience for the sake of learning to lower entropy and evolve to a higher vibrational frequency of consciousness. So again, this goes back to some previous videos where the concept keeps getting repeated that ultimately we're here in order to go through experiences, life plans, and the goal is to constantly increase the vibrational rate of our frequency, of how our energy and matter basically vibrates. And over time, our consciousness grows through that process, but we're also ultimately lowering the entropy of what it takes for evolution. The most important path for any soul or being is to follow the heart in each and every moment and have the thoughts and do the actions that bring the most joy and satisfy the passions in each and every moment. That is when a being truly knows thyself. And he did not use those words lightly. They were sort of in bold when I was seeing them come in. In other words, to become a sovereign soul, to grow in your power, to build out your solar plexus, so to speak, you really have to know yourself and know and be true to your feelings, be true to your, like deep down what you know to be true. Don't question it. In this case, in the case of the recent global bug, two key universal principles, which you call ethics, were being tested: the right to free will choice versus the duty or desire to serve others by not being a spreader. Both carry equally powerful intentions, for without free will, which, by the way, is a principle of this multiverse holographic simulation, beings don't have the ability to evolve and grow through experience in a polarized set of energies. Simultaneously, the intention of taking a liquid injection, starting with the letter V, into the body through a needle, or wearing a filtering cloth to protect and serve others, carries a high vibration of love and compassion. Again, both are necessary and powerful. Either option, held in belief and intention through fear, such as fear of losing freedom, fear of catching the bug, or fear the liquid medicine will cause harm, lower the vibrational frequency of the being's energy and ultimately attract the very thing that being fears. So what he's saying here is that ultimately there really is no kind of wrong answer or right answer. Both those different concepts of free will choice in this particular case of what we're kind of seeing play out right now in our society, both are equally strong principles that have equally strong intentions. And whatever the case may be, the being really has to stay true to their heart and follow what's in their gut. But at the end of the day, if you're going down a path that's basically being driven at its core through fear, so I'm going to take this liquid medicine because I fear getting sick, or I'm going to not take this liquid medicine because I fear what's in it, or I'm ultimately fear losing freedom. That ultimately is an intention that's founded in creating a lower vibrational energy or frequency within your electromagnetic field. When you do that, it essentially goes out into the universe sort of through your electromagnetic pulse. It kind of goes around and will eventually go out and could help you attract, as he says, the very thing that you fear. So it goes back to the idea of just be mindful of your thoughts, be mindful of your intentions, especially when they're charged with emotion, because it will send out an energetic force that has the ability through the law of sort of manifestation and then attraction of kind of, helping you manifest the opposite of kind of what you want. He finishes up to say, so Chela, and again, Chela simply means spiritual student. So Chela, the most important realization is to follow your heart and joy. The energy and vibrational frequency produced in your heart from your thoughts and intentions matter. They really do matter. And remember, even though it feels real at times, all in your world is an illusion. It's all energy. And then I said thank you to him. So I thought that was very interesting because while I had done the channeling, I think it's a couple videos ago, on the concept of free will choice, those teachings came in much earlier in my relationship with Hilarion. I think they go back to 2020. But I just channeled this particular one probably a couple weeks ago. And I just had that open question about how it is that I guess the universe sort of works on balancing out energies between an individual and a group. And interesting that he brought this particular example up. And maybe, maybe it's being presented in front of us, or we're sort of co-creating this as an ability for us to learn and grow through and kind of force choice points in this world, or at least in our individual experiences. So with that, I hope you took something away. If this channel and if this message resonates with you, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel and sign up for the notifications so that you can get alerts of when I post additional content. Thanks. Bye.